Okay, let's get sewing one of these bun makers. I wanted to show you the little Disney dolls too. You can use them in their hair also. This was a top pompadour. I did a messy job, but you get the idea. So you can even make a pompadour. Just curl this way and then put it on the top. And you can really, make the pompadour high if you want. It's up to you, but you're going to have to use a few bobby pins in the hair too. But there's a pompadour. I did it really quick, so I didn't stick it in very well. But there's so many things you can do. It's just whatever you want, especially if they're just for pictures. Okay. So there she is. Okay, so let's put her down. All right, I'm going to use the floral wire like I did on the other ones. The one thing you're going to want to do is not to get, you're going to want to round the corners out, because if you don't, they're going to stick through. So I'm just using my regular tool for jewelry, and I'm just going to curl it. And that'll stop it from popping out the edge of the fabric. I even went so far as to take hot glue and hot glue it, and then I thought, it was just a waste of time. You really don't have to. So let me get my sewing machine up here. Some of you may feel uncomfortable. Let me make sure I'm not hitting the camera. Some of you may feel uncomfortable putting wire on your sewing machine, and that's quite all right. Don't do it then. Take your wire, put your openings on the side so they're not on the corners. But you can zigzag this on, or if you don't want to put it on your sewing machine, don't. But just tack it all the way around the outside of the fabric. But if you do want to put it on your sewing machine, just go to a zigzag stitch. Go as wide as you can. I'm going... you don't even have to go that wide. Go about 5/0 and then just go about 3.5 millimeter, and that'll get you started. So what you're going to do is you're just going to, I'm using my, I don't know what this hook, just the regular pressure foot. I don't even know what this one is called. But there's the one with the opening down the center so that the wire will fit right down the center so you don't mistakenly hit your needle. I'm using a all-purpose universal needle. So here's this paper. You don't even have to pre-shrink your fabric because you're not going to probably put these ever in the wash machine. I mean, you could, but the wire would probably get yucky. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get started. So manually put your needle right in that hole of that twist. And that'll keep that twist from twisting. I didn't get it. Or you can just skip it all together. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. Like I said, it really is hit and miss. You can do it really, you can be really particular about this. But I've done so many of these, you can be a mess and it won't make any difference. Okay, so just bend your wire. And just keep sewing around the outside. And then when you get to the end, twist your wire back into a circle again. The reason I do this is it keeps the wire stabilized within the in the bun maker. But you don't have to. I think I'm probably going overboard. I'm making it harder than it really is. And if you use the right gauge wire, you maybe only have to use one piece of wire, or however you're going to do it. Okay, so then just keep going. Keep that wire in the center of the presser foot, and you'll be able to... Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing because I already made one. So let me just... cut this off. Okay, so then we're just going to keep going around and then around, and then when we get here I'm just going to go here and then bend it out a little bit and do row number 2. Okay, and then we're just going to do that and then do that, and we're going to keep doing it until it looks like this. You see that? I'm not even going to cut my strings. So I've got two rows of wire. It seems to work best for me. Okay, so you're going to cut your pattern out the same exact way. So take it and put your fabric back to back. You're going to leave yourself an opening of about, just to make it easy, it's up to you. You know, once you make a couple of these, you're going to know how easy it is for you to get that wire inside the opening. So let's go back to a straight stitch. Okay, and we're going to go all the way around here. You can do, you can go, it's up to you. You can go a 1/4 inch seam, you can go a 1/2 inch seam. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Anything you want to do is fine. So just keep going all the way around. And you don't even have to be perfect, because once it's in the hair, you don't even see it. You don't even have to pre-wash your fabric. Like I said, you don't even have to unless you want to. So you know, if you want the bow to show when you're doing this, make your designs in coordinating fabric. It's just that simple. So take your scissors and you're going to just clip the corners. And that's just so they'll lay flat. Made a black and white striped one, thinking it might show up better on camera. We'll see how it looks. Let's do this one. Okay, so we're just going to turn it inside out. Easy peasy. Okay, it looks like eyeglass holder. Okay, let's do this one too. See which one I like better. This was black and white, sort of a geometrical design. I thought you can use this with a black and white outfit, and you can have it even showing on the outside. Make it like a bow. This is really good for scrap fabric. It's like making scrunchies. Hope I'm in camera. Okay. Okay, let's do this one. This one's prettier than this one. Okay, we'll do this one. Okay, so take your insert. You see that? We're going to insert our insert. We're going to have to bend it a little bit to get it in there. Okay, so other side, bend it. Okay. Pull it straight out. Make sure it is flat in the inside, and the reason why we need to make it flat on the inside is because we need to sew it. We need to make sure that we sew it in place. You can tack it in place or you can sew it in place. It's up to you. Let me show you how I did on some of these. This one I just tacked, and all I did was take a bar tack, zigzag with a 0 length of stitch, and I just tacked it in a few places. You can't even see it because I just bar tacked it. You can see a little bit right here. You can see the thread where I bar tacked here, and that'll keep that wire in place. On this one, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't because I used green thread. I did a hourglass shape to keep the wire up in the corners. Hourglass, almost a bow tie actually here. Okay, On this one, I sewed, since I only put one wire in the ponytail one, the pigtail one, I just sewed all the way around the outside, making sure the wire was to the outside so that it would stay in that location. Here I just added a couple pieces of ribbon. I just tied ribbon on this one and did that. Okay, so first we're going to get our wire out of the way and we're going to sew our opening shut. So let's push that out, bend that down, put a couple pins in here so we can get it flat. And on this side, put the seam down. Okay, now that we've got that, line them up so they're right next to each other. You can do an invisible stitch by hand if you want to, but why bother? You're not going to see it anyway. Just extra work. But if you're going to want these to look really nice for gifts, there's all kinds of things you can do. Okay, so I'm just going to go a regular stitch and I'm going to go and close that up. So let me put that to the center. Okay. Make sure when you're sewing that you do not hit the wire. Okay, opening is closed with a plain old stitch. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to maneuver the wire so it is completely out towards the outside of the, and you'll be able to feel it with your fingers. Okay, make sure it's completely at the edges. Because you do not want to hit that wire with your sewing machine. It's just about the same as hitting a straight pin, so it's not going to, it probably won't even break your needle, but you don't want to do it if you can help it. Okay, so there we go. Now how wide do you want to make your opening? It's totally up to you. If you're making the small one, your opening, we're going to do a buttonhole right down the center. This is for the pigtail one. This is 4.5 inches across, and on this one I made my opening 2.5 inches. So what you're going to have to do is you're just going to experiment, 2.5, yeah, about 2.5. You're just going to experiment with different shapes and sizes. Like I said, this is the first time I've made it, so I'm by no means an expert. This one I did, the opening on this one I did 4.5 inches, and this one is probably, let me see, 6, 7, 8, probably 8 inches by 2.5 done, so probably 3 inches across, probably 8, 9 inches this way, 3 this way, and then I did that. So I can tell you right here on this one. This was 10 inches by 3.5, and that was how we just did the one we just did. As far as the opening, it's totally up to you. This is how far you can spread the hair. So on dolls, you really don't have to go that because they don't have that much hair. So I would make your opening maybe 4.5 to 5 inches at the most. But like I said, you might want it 7 inches if you have a doll with a lot of hair. So it's just totally up to you. Okay, so take your middle, go in about 2 inches here, 2 inches here, and then take your chalk. And what we're going to do is we're going to chalk right down the center. So let's just make a chalk mark. You don't have to do this. You can just eyeball it. And you don't have to be perfect, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, there's your chalk mark down the center. You don't even have to do it if you don't even need to use the chalk. Don't even bother. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to our zigzag stitch, and we're going to do a buttonhole, but we're going to do it on without the buttonhole maker. Okay, so what I did is I did my width, I went, oh, I had my piece of paper, what did I do with it? I did my length of my stitch, 0.02. So go to your length of 0.02 and that'll give you that buttonhole stitch. And then for the length of the stitch, I did a, I believe it was 2.5. What did I do with my notes? I had notes here saying how I made those. So of course I can't find them. Okay, well, since I don't have it, I'm going to test it. So let's take a piece of scrap fabric and test it. I believe it was this one. I don't know what I did with it. Okay, let's test it. Okay, that's too wide. Okay, let's go 2 inches. Yep, that's what I did. You can go 2.5 and 0.02 if you want it wider. You can't see white on white. But either one, 2.5 and a 2 millimeter or a 2.0, depends on how thick you want it. We'll go 2.5. Let's go 2.5 and 0.2 to make our buttonhole. Okay, let me see if you got the camera in there. Okay, so let's just put our, we're going to go down one side up the other, and then we're just going to bar tack the ends. And you're making a buttonhole, so it's going to be slow. Let's see if I can speed it up. Okay, so we've done half of a buttonhole. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the next one, and we're going to go right down, right very next to it, and we're only going to leave a tiny little opening, just like we're making a buttonhole. So we're going to go side by side. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it, because you can always trim this off. It's not a big deal, you know, either way. Okay, so we're going to go number 2, right down the center. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to line up, and you're going to start right where the, might be easier if I put a pin in so I can see where the start is, where I need to put my, okay. So, but it's not a big deal if you mess it up. Okay, so I'm going to line my second side up, and I'm going to run it right down the edge here, and hopefully it will be the right location. Get right up and look at it if you can't see from where you're at. Try not to touch the edges, because if you do, you're not going to be able to make that cut in the middle. Made it. Okay, I was a little off. Okay, so line 1, line 2 right next to each other. So now I'm going to go to a 4.5, and I'm going to close off those ends. So get right on top of it and close the ends off. Just go maybe 10 stitches, no big deal. All you're doing is keeping it from fraying. Okay, so you got that. Okay, see, I even got off a little bit. No problemo.